Hello from wherever you are. I hope you are keeping it cool. I hope you are doing well. I hope the videos you have been sharing are inspiring, they are transformative, and I believe your dairy farm is taking a shape. But from the so many questions you have asked, you have decided to have a sit down and answer some of them. And one of the frequently asked question is how to start a dairy farm or how to revamp a dairy farm. This one sounds like an easy thing, but it's not as easy as majority of you will think. Then it also sounds as a very difficult thing from majority of you, but it's not that difficult. It's all about understanding the principles of a dairy farm. Now, but before that, we are so much grateful for your support. At least our channel is growing. I believe wherever you are, you have subscribed. If you haven't, in a count of 1, 2, 3, I believe you have already subscribed. Also, thank you so much for inviting us in your dairy farm for dairy consultancy, and also making it to our recently held a physical dairy training. We have one upcoming in the month of July 2022 at Syokimau. Enough for that. In starting a dairy farm, I'll wish us to look at it from two perspectives. One is a business, and number two is a manufacturing industry, manufacturing/stroke processing industry. I'll start with that manufacturing and processing industry. Let's look from a very basic level that everyone will understand. It's owning a dairy cow. It's like having a posho mill. Now let's look at the activities that are involved in a posho mill. One, you must have structures in that posho mill. You must have a way you have partitioned that posho mill. You have maybe where you store your maize. You have somewhere people can come and do they can wash the maize probably, maybe collect the foreign materials. You have such a section. You have a section whereby you have your ready maize flour. And you have such kind of organization, and you know who to allocate where. Maybe you have someone, and maybe if it's a busy posho mill, you have someone who is guiding the customers. You have the mill operator there. That is the same way the dairy farm works. Now, the cow under a posho mill setup, the cow is now the real posho mill. It's the one that crushes the maize to give you the maize flour. The maize flour is the milk. So if the maize is rotten, then the end product, which is the maize flour, it will also be rotten. If it's clean maize, whatever you'll get there, it's a clean maize flour. And now the ugali itself, it's now your profit. Once you look at dairy farming from that perspective, you'll be able to appreciate that it must have structures, and you must do things the right way. Then you have the repair and maintenance budget for the same, for that posho mill, because maybe it's run by electricity, or maybe it's an engine at the end of the day. So there are a lot of repair and maintenance, and this is why we do the selection and the culling of dairy cows. So now you have a great overview of what dairy farming entails. As a business, you are an investor. Don't look at yourself as a farmer who is an investor. Don't just look at it from a self-employment perspective. Don't look at it as just a side hustle. Look at it as the main business. You have invested there, you have to recoup back your investment. Then look at the level of investment to set up a dairy farm. It's equivalent, like maybe in that piece of land, it's equivalent maybe by building 2 or 3 rental houses, or maybe if you have a big farm, it's like doing an entire apartment. You have to give it time for you to break even and get the profit. So it's not an instant thing that I own a cow today, I give it a feed, I milk, I take it to the milk or collection center, or maybe to the market, maybe in a broad perspective to the market, and then boom, I have the profit. It's not as direct as that. Now, what are the guiding principles of a dairy farm? One of the guiding principles is that you must be a good planning. And what kind of plans do you have? I don't want to go more into a professional point of it and say you must have a business plan. I don't want to go that direction, because majority of us who have joined, maybe you own 3 cows, you own 4 cows, you might not be able to get the services of getting a professional business plan. But there are those planning that are so basic and it's easy to do. A good example of this planning is the fodder plan. Cows must eat. January 1st to December 31st, cows must eat. You must have workers in the farm, so you must have a human resource planning. You have maybe the cash flow management. You must know when to breed this cow, when not to breed this one, and you have a consistent supply of milk. So it also needs that cash flow planning, cash flow management. These are some of the very basic planning in a dairy farm. We'll do a series of these planning videos, each video taking a brief few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes, explaining how that one is very important in your dairy farm. For the purpose of this video, I want us to focus on the fodder plan. Very important. As I've said, cows must eat, and there's this quote I like posing to farmers. No matter how much you have good explanations why your cows are starving, all those excuses, all those explanations, cows will never feed on them. So in a nutshell, cows never feed on excuses. Now, since they don't feed on excuses, what are they supposed to feed on? The very basic thing is that cows should, whatever they feed on January 1st, you're supposed to maintain the same all the way to December 31st. How are you maintaining the same? In terms of quality, in terms of quantity, in terms of the fodder type. I don't want you to keep on shifting. Like now we had the rainfall, the grass has sprouted, the napier has sprouted, so you have shifted from maize silage, now you are going to napier. Then after a short while, then you are back to maize silage. No, you need that consistency of that fodder type. And then also be very sure, at what particular time do I introduce it? I don't want this one to be more debatable, because when you dry your cows, automatically you don't have to do the maize silage. You can now maybe go to the napier, depending on your farm. I'm not looking at the transitional cows, or so we call, or even the special attention maybe to calves you don't feed maize silage. So I'm looking at it from a broad perspective, but there are those instances that some feed might not be fed to that cow. But the bulk and the base of fodder of that animal, you should maintain it for an entire year. Fodder is very important. Maintaining that consistency is very important. But now, with the climatic changes, things have changed rapidly. I hear some people talking about something called La Nina. I'm not an expert in that field, but they say it has been affecting us, and maybe it's coming to an end this year. Others are talking of June, July. So we are about to resume our normal rains. But before that, do you have the management tips that helps you to be secure in terms of fodder? And one of the basic things you can do, if you are struggling, if you are not a starter, if you are struggling, the very basic thing you can ever do is maybe outsource fodder, but at least outsource nearby that farm. So it means you must have that budget. If you don't have that budget, how do you finance that outsourcing? Because at the end of the day, your cows must eat. Majority of you watching this video, majority of you in Kenya, you are outsourcing. In one or the other, be it hay, be it napier, be it maize, silage, you are outsourcing. So make sure you have that budget. If you don't have a budget, there's this slogan we like using, uza ng'ombe, lisha ng'ombe. Very important. That principle will only work for you if you are revamping your dairy farm. But if you are a starter, I want us to borrow a leaf from Mbogori Dairy Farm. Mbogori Dairy Farm, you have been highlighting their journey. The farm started 2020, August. But the whole idea started 3 years ago. And how did it start? They started with the fodder plan. They had the feeding regime, expected feeding regime. So they are working on providing that feed regime. They are implementing that feed regime by conserving fodder 3 years before they brought the animal. So the fodder plan started 3 years before buying the animal. And what did they do? They grew their maize. Every month, every season, they were topping up until they were sure, depending on the number of cows you want to start with, which is 15 cows in calf heifers, we have enough fodder that can last us a minimum of 2 years. I want you to borrow a leaf from that farm if you're starting, and you build up your fodder stock. At least you might not do like Mbogori for 2 years, but at least do it for 1 year, such that even if one season, if your area has one season, make sure that you have enough that can last you until the end of the second season. If your area experiences 2 seasons, then make sure you have 2 seasons per year. Then make sure you have enough fodder that can last you until the next season begins. That is like, personally, I'm a dairy farmer based in Nyandarua County. You only have one maize season in a year. So it means my fodder plan should be for 2 years, not 1 year, such that if the next season fails, I'm secure. If you're in somewhere like Kiambu where they experience 2 seasons, then 2 seasons in a year, then I only need a fodder plan for 1 year if I'm starting. If I'm restarting, I said look for finances, and if you don't have, you can always uza ng'ombe, lisha ng'ombe, and you outsource that can last you for a given period, depending on what I have classified. This one ensures that you have consistent supply throughout the year. You don't have to worry. You don't have to experience panic buying. Also, network with your farmers. Maybe you are a starter, and maybe the milk you have already started, and maybe you have land, and the milk prices are not forthcoming. You can grow enough fodder, but you look for market for that fodder, and you will make an extra coin. So there is a way you can coil that fodder business, and it be an alternative business in your farm, or you have enough that you can be able to feed your cows for an entire 1 year. The second thing regarding fodder, I talked about the climatic condition. For you to tap that potential, maybe in your smartphone, the one you're using to watch, or maybe in your laptop, follow the weather patterns. It will always help you, it will always guide you when to plant, when to do this activity, and when to do this activity. But the most important thing, it's also doing soil analysis for your crop, for your shamba. The soil analysis guides you on the fertilizers to use. Very important. Like for us, I said I farm in Nyandarua, I'm a farmer. I was supposed to use the DAP oil traditionally. I was supposed to use the DAP while planting, but upon doing soil analysis, which costed me barely 5,000, I didn't use the DAP, but I used the NPK 17, 17, 17, and another field, the lab analyst they recommended 23, 23, 0. So it's always important to do the soil analysis. Also have a management tips. Like for me, I said the maize takes 1 year, but what did I do? In portion of that land, I decided to grow a 3-month grass, oats, barley, wheat. You can grow that one so that you can bridge that gap of fodder insecurity. I hope you have learned something about fodder. Maybe share your comment there on what you have learned, or maybe what you feel you can be able to implement. Maybe it's taking soil analysis, soil for lab analysis. Maybe it's outsourcing fodder. Maybe it's uza ng'ombe, lisha ng'ombe. Maybe you wanted to start. Maybe you have decided now to start with the fodder. Maybe not to start with the structures. Maybe share with us, and when we implement what we talk, we share in these videos, come back and share there in the comment section what you have implemented and the results you have seen. Also remember to subscribe. Until next week, keep it safe. Tuzidi kulima. Kwaheri.